Hey, this is Nicholas with the Backyard Tortoise, and I finished another audiobook, continuing on into the Thrawn Trilogy, Star Wars Dark Forces Rising, Book 2 of the Thrawn Trilogy by Timothy Zahn and narrated by Mark Thompson. If you didn't catch it from the last book, I love these books, and the first one is very much setting up the world, and so if you read that and you feel like, I don't get it, get into the next book. And of course, the third book ends so poetically, and we'll get into that. But with my next coverage of this, but the second book really starts to build out Mara Jade as a character. Really helps to kind of get the backstory of why she hates Luke and that. But also, you get to see a lot of Han and Lando going across. And poor Lando, he's like, man, I just want to be a legitimate businessman, and you keep dragging me into all these wars. And we see Leia on the run as well from the Negri, and it really kind of, they're all playing their parts. Luke's going off doing his own stuff, and Lord Sabaoth and Thrawn are having their back and forth. And then Card's got his own thing going on. He is trying to play the middle. And then Thrawn pretty much says, nope, there's not going to be a middle. I have declared you my enemy. And so he's trying to be in the middle. But continually, he's picking the rebel's side because he's being forced into that hand. And so one of the things I like about this is they talk about, this is all before the prequels, but we're going into the cloning. And, Sabaoth there was found at the facility with the cloning. So the Empire is doing clones. And they've been just desperate for ships. So we see a start of it. They're trying to, steal ships from the Republic, putting out pressure everywhere. Give me ships. And the New Republic's like, well, they can't really. And then there's this big kind of almost like treasure hunt of this like fabled ghost fleet of when they first came up with this thing where one ship could command a lot of ships and basically slave the ships. And the idea was that you could cut the crews down of all the ships significantly, and one ship could coordinate and bring in this large armada. And so there's this large armada of ships, and whoever gets to them first is going to have a true boost of power. And if Thrawn gets them, well, the revelation that he has the ability to clone means he actually can man them. Whereas the New Republic, it's not so much that they need the additional firepower, it's that they can't afford for the Empire to have it. So they're trying to whisk it away. And it really goes into kind of some of the lore. This is, like I said, you can see some of the inspiration for what became the prequels, like the idea of droids and automating the ships and stuff like that, and why they don't do that. It plays into this. So it's the idea that this giant fleet, and then a disease that has since been cured, was caught by the crew that drives people insane. And what happened is they just sporadically, this ship fleet, because they're jumped out sporadic because the people became insane. Kind of seems like the plot that Foundation went with. Strange, because that's not in the Foundation books, but that is in this book. Interesting. But so they went and jumped these hundreds of ships out, these dreadnought ships. And so it's like this whole military armada where all the people died off of a disease that's now since been cured. And it's been lost. And it's like the folklore that all the different, people like Solo smugglers and crime lords and all these ones, they've all been that. And it's like the thing, like people selling maps to find it and all that kind of stuff. And we come out, there are a few people who have come across it, who have found it, but have never had the means to do anything with it, or have had a little bit of means and have done a little bit. We also get a new character in here, who is a Corellian commander who was there at the beginning, but that when Bail Organa died, he basically, Bail Organa was kind of like the glue that stuck him and Mon Mothma together. And then when Bail Organa died, his pride got hurt, and he backed out. And he was fighting as a rebel privately outside of the rebellion. And so bringing him back in, Solo brings him back in, and he's kind of much needed at this time. Really good character development on Mon Mothma, making her more of a three-dimensional character than just like some altruistic person that stood there with him. No, she's got flaws, but she's also a good person, and she makes good judgment calls and can suck it up and apologize when she needs to. So it's adding a lot of good stuff. That's more in the third book, but we'll get to that in another video. But I just wanted to take a moment and really say, like, this is when the action like really gets up. And then towards the end, when they get this fleet and they get there and they realize the Empire got there first. First, they think they got there first because the Empire's not there. But then they realize most of the fleet is gone. The Empire got there ahead of them. And really, everything being lost, everything, like they have a steady victory there. They get away. But the realization that they lost this fleet, Thrawn has it, and it's really setting up a very Empire Strikes Back. Like, all hope is lost at the end of this book. Like, we put the pieces together, like, oh, we're bringing this person over, but realistically, this ends with the deck stacked in Thrawn's behavior. Meanwhile, Sabaoth is getting more and more impatient. And his dealings with Luke, like, it's interesting because they didn't have the word Sith yet. So he is, they use the term Dark Jedi. Like, has he gone to become a Dark Jedi? But realistically, they say he's not a Dark Jedi. He's kind of worse. He's a senile Jedi. He's crazy. He's messed up. He's a clone. So as a clone who wasn't developed properly, he's messed up in the head. And Luke has pity on him. Luke's trying to save him. And it's interesting because it's dealing with some of the things that The Last Jedi dealt with, but in a much better way. Like, Luke is questioning himself of, like, what makes him think that he can do this? Just because he did it to Vader, that he's going to be able to save this guy? Is he believing the hype or the legend of Luke Skywalker, that he can do anything? Is he foolish? Is he going into trouble? Like, he would have been lost to the Emperor, would have killed him if it wouldn't have been for Vader. Like, so he's still very new in discovering the full potential of his powers. Like in the EU, at the end of the EU, Luke is like OP, like moving ships out of black holes, OP. But at this point, he's still very weak, and he's still getting very used to these things and trying to understand what's his purpose. And so I like it as looking at it now, because it's covering some of those same topics, but it does it in a way that doesn't offend. It doesn't tear down or destroy the image of Luke. And so I think because this exists, and this is one of the big parts of the EU that people like point out as like peak Skywalker, I think that people look at how he overcame this, and they add to what he experienced in Return of the Jedi, and they just don't see Luke ending up where he did, because he's already done this story arc in their minds. He's already accomplished had these setbacks, had these doubts, and had to deal with them and overcome them. Very interesting. And it's very interesting watching the connection between him and Mara Jade grow. So this is just my quick light spoiler. I guess I should have said at the beginning. I'm not really getting into the details. I'm probably going to talk more about that more when I get to the third book and do my video on that. But with that, I hope everybody's having a good day. Go check out Star Wars, the Thrawn Trilogy by Timothy Zahn. This is Dark Forces Rising, narrated by Mark Thompson. It is wonderful. It is a great time. And really, it's just some great Star Wars. And don't we all love some great Star Wars? All right, I'll catch you in the next video.